There's something almost poetic about watching raw steel come to life. It doesn't matter how many times you've seen it, the glow of molten metal, the power of the press, the precision of a modern rolling mill, it never gets old. Today we're stepping inside one of the most impressive steel production facilities in operation, the Intermetal manufacturing plant. Pull up a chair, because this one's a real treat. Intermetal is a steel production company known for its vertically integrated process, meaning they handle everything from raw material intake all the way to finished steel products under one roof. That kind of control over quality isn't something every manufacturer can claim, and it's exactly why companies around the world trust them. The process begins with scrap metal, collected, sorted, and fed into electric arc furnaces, or EAFs. These aren't your grandfather's blast furnaces. A modern EAF can reach temperatures above 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit using massive graphite electrodes that conduct electricity powerful enough to melt solid steel in under 90 minutes. The heat is so intense it's visible from outside the building. Once the steel reaches the right temperature and chemical composition, and that chemistry is closely monitored by computer systems in real time, it's tapped into a ladle and transferred to the continuous casting line. Continuous casting is where things really start to take shape, literally. The liquid steel is poured into water-cooled molds and emerges as a solid strand, called a billet or bloom, depending on the cross-section, that moves on rollers and is cut to length. The strand caster at Intermetal operates continuously, day and night, with minimal downtime. From there, those billets head to the rolling mill. Heated to around 200 degrees Fahrenheit, they're squeezed between a series of powerful roller stands, each one applying tons of pressure to gradually reduce the thickness and shape the steel into rods, bars, angles, or beams. The rolling process also refines the grain structure of the steel, making it tougher and more uniform. It's not just shaping, it's improving the very nature of the metal. Finally, the finished products go through cooling, straightening, cutting, and quality inspection, including ultrasonic testing and surface checks before being bundled and shipped. At Intermetal, that whole journey from scrap to finished steel bar can happen in just a few hours. That's modern steelmaking. Fast, precise, and built to last.
Now here's a machine that old-school machinists would have killed to have in their shop back in the day. The VDF 250T, a heavy-duty CNC lathe built for serious production work. What we're watching here is the turning of an intermediate shaft, the kind of precision component found in gearboxes, industrial drives, and heavy equipment transmissions. These shafts transfer torque between stages of a drivetrain, so tolerances have to be dead on. The operator begins by chucking the raw steel billet and dialing in the facing cut to square off the end. Then, a series of turning passes removes material down to the target diameter, step by step. The cutting inserts, carbide tipped for hardness and heat resistance, peel away metal with a satisfying curl of chip. Notice how the coolant floods the cutting zone. That's not just for temperature. It flushes chips, protects the surface finish, and extends tool life. Every pass is programmed with precision, feed rate, spindle speed, depth of cut. Old-timers running manual lathes set these by feel.
If you've ever looked up at the skyline of a great European city, or admired the golden domes of a cathedral or palace, you've seen the end result of a metalworking craft that dates back centuries. Those beautiful curved, layered surfaces, they don't just appear out of nowhere. Each one is carefully shaped, panel by panel, with extraordinary precision. And today, we're going to watch exactly how that's done, using the Neeland hydraulic press, one of the most trusted tools in the decorative metalworking industry. The panels you're seeing formed here are called onion dome panels, named for their distinctive, bulging profile that tapers to a point at the top, very much like the shape of an onion. You'll find this architectural style across Russia, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East, adorning churches, mosques, and historic buildings. Each dome can require dozens, sometimes hundreds, of these individual panels, all formed to exact specifications so they fit together seamlessly. So how does the Neyland press turn a flat sheet of metal into one of these curved panels? It starts with sheet metal blanks, typically made from copper, zinc, or stainless steel, materials chosen for their durability, weather resistance, and beautiful appearance when finished. The press itself is a multi-stage forming machine. In the first stage, the flat blank is positioned carefully in the lower die. The upper die, shaped precisely to match the final panel profile, descends with enormous hydraulic force, pressing the metal into shape in a single powerful stroke. What's remarkable here is the level of detail in those dies. Every curve, every taper, every subtle contour is engineered into the tooling, so the panel emerges with perfect geometry every single time. But forming isn't done in one step. After the initial press stroke, the panel goes through edge trimming and flanging operations, where the edges are cut clean and folded slightly inward. These flanges are critical. They're what allows the panels to interlock and be fastened to the dome's substructure without any exposed fasteners or gaps. The Neyland press is especially prized for its repeatability. In a traditional hand-forming process, each panel would vary slightly depending on the craftsman. Here, every panel produced is virtually identical, which is essential when you're tiling hundreds of them across a dome that will be visible from miles away. Once formed, the panels are typically inspected against a master template, checked for any surface imperfections, and then either polished, coated, or patinated, depending on the final architectural specification. There's something deeply satisfying about watching this process. Ancient craft, modern machinery, working together to carry on a tradition that shaped some of the most iconic buildings in human history. That dome you admire on your travels? It started right here, on a press like this. Now here's something special. The handcrafted production of Graf von Faber-Castell fountain pens, where old-world craftsmanship remains absolutely essential. Despite all our modern technology, this German company has been making fine writing instruments since 1761, and they haven't forgotten how it's done. The barrel and cap are hand-polished through multiple stages. This can take hours for a single pen. The nib, the business end of any fountain pen, is perhaps the most critical component. Made from gold alloy, each nib is individually shaped, then hand-ground to create the precise flexibility and ink flow characteristics. Assembly requires steady hands and careful attention. Each component must fit precisely, yet move smoothly. The final testing involves actually writing with each pen, making minute adjustments until it performs flawlessly.
If you've ever sat in a centuries-old church and watched sunlight pour through those glowing stained glass windows, rich, uneven, full of depth, you are looking at glass made exactly the way they're making it here at Lambertswaldsassen in Bavaria, Germany. And that tradition is something worth stopping to appreciate. Lamberts is one of the last glassworks in the world still producing mouth-blown, hand-rolled antique cathedral glass, a craft virtually unchanged since the Middle Ages. Their glass doesn't just let light through. It bends it, shifts it, gives it life. And the reason for that comes down to the process itself. It starts in the furnace, where raw silica, soda ash, and pitch are melted together at temperatures above 20,400 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to glow like a small sun. A glassblower gathers a molten gather of glass on a long iron blowpipe and begins the ancient dance of rotating, blowing, and shaping. They blow a large cylinder, sometimes up to 20 inches long and 6 inches wide, coaxing the glass with lung power and gravity, nothing more. Once the cylinder cools slightly, it's cut along one side with a diamond blade and placed back into a flattening oven called a flattening kiln, heated to around 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. There, gravity does its quiet work. The cylinder slowly relaxes, unfolds, and lies flat into a sheet. No rollers, no pressure, just heat and time. What comes out is a pane of glass roughly 24 by 36 inches, with the gentle surface ripples and subtle color variations that no machine can replicate. Different mineral oxides give each batch its color: cobalt for deep blue, copper for greens, gold for that signature cathedral red. Each sheet is unique,